If you live in California and you're drowning in debt, stop scrolling right now. I'm about to reveal 3 debt relief options specific to California that can cut your debt payoff time in half. What I'm about to share could be the difference between staying trapped in debt for years or breaking free in as little as 24 to 48 months. Hi, I'm Rob, a financial coach for more than 20 years. I get how confusing debt can feel, especially with so many sketchy ads out there. So I'm here to break down what's real, what's not, and how you can finally start taking control. Look, not all debt relief takes California's specific laws into account, and not knowing the difference could cost you years of payments, or worse, get you sued when you thought you were safe. Here's what most people don't realize. California has 3 advantages that other states don't. I'm going to show you exactly how to use all 3, including the key timeline that nobody tells you about. So let's get into it. Let's start with the question that's probably keeping you up at night. How long am I going to be in debt? Here's what nobody tells you. There are 3 paths out of debt. The first 2, most people know about them. But the third, the one I'm going to tell you about in chapter 3, can cut your time in half. Seriously, but only if you meet one specific requirement. But let me explain the basics first. Let's say you're paying $600 a month across 3 credit cards, but your balance barely moves. You started with $20,000 2 years ago. Today, you're only down to $19,200. That's because nearly all of your payments went to interest. Meanwhile, rent went up, gas hit $5.49 in California, your grocery bill is now $300 a week, and you have to use credit cards just to cover it. You're working full-time, maybe even overtime, but somehow still going backwards. Sound familiar? You tell yourself, I just need to work harder, make more money, pay more each month. But that's not the problem. Here's what most people don't understand. The path you choose now determines whether you'll be free from debt in 24 to 48 months or still trapped paying it 5 years from now. Because each one leads to completely different outcomes. One path keeps you paying the full $20,000 over 5 years, while the other gets you out in 2 years, potentially only paying $10,000. Same debt, different strategy, totally different life. Let's break down your options. Number 1, debt management plans. These take 3 to 5 years and involve combining your debts into one monthly payment. But you're still paying back the full $20,000. Your creditors get every penny plus interest. Number 2, debt settlement. This one is sometimes shorter, on average just 24 to 48 months. But here's the key difference. Instead of paying the full amount, you negotiate with creditors to pay less than you owe. So instead of paying the full $20,000, you might only pay $10,000. The other $10,000, forgiven, gone. But how is that possible? One way is working with a company that negotiates for you while you save up money in an account you control. Keep in mind, there are associated fees that are added when you work with a debt settlement company. Third is bankruptcy, and there are 2 main types. Chapter 7 can be done in a few months and wipes out most unsecured debt, but you might have to give up some assets. Chapter 13 is a repayment plan that takes 3 to 5 years, but it protects your assets and gives you some breathing room. Now here's what's happening in California right now, and this might surprise you. Recent data from Freedom Debt Relief shows that Californians seeking debt relief are carrying an average of $15,000 in credit card debt. And if you're in between the ages of 36 and 65, that number jumps to $18,000. So if you're sitting there thinking you're the only one struggling, you're definitely not alone. The cost of living in California is brutal, and sometimes debt is what happens when life happens. But here's what matters. Your choice right now, this week, determines if in 2 years you're going to be celebrating freedom or stuck paying minimums for the next 5. Clock is ticking. What if I told you there's a program in California that could completely erase an $8,000 medical bill, but 90% of people who qualify never even apply because they don't know it exists? And it's not just medical debt. Imagine this. You had a health scare last year. Nothing life-threatening, thank God, but you ended up in the ER. Insurance paid for some of it, but now you're staring at an $8,000 bill. You've been ignoring it because you have no idea how you'll ever pay it. Every time you see that envelope, your stomach drops. Meanwhile, the hospital has a forgiveness program sitting there, just waiting for someone to ask. But nobody tells you this. Here's what most people don't realize. California has specialized debt relief options that aren't advertised. They're buried in county programs, federal guidelines, and legal loopholes. The big companies don't tell you about them because there's no money in it for them. And which option you choose depends on what kind of debt you have. If you have medical debt, you might not know that hospitals are required to have financial assistance programs. For example, if you live in Los Angeles County and meet certain income requirements, the Los Angeles County Medical Debt Relief Program can wipe out your entire balance. That $8,000 ER bill could completely disappear if you just apply, but you have to know these programs exist and actually fill out the application. Payday loans, those predatory loans with 400% interest rates, they feel impossible to escape. But credit counseling agencies can negotiate them down, or you could settle them through a debt relief program for a fraction of what you owe. Remember, these lenders would rather get something than nothing, and most are willing to settle. Student loans. California doesn't have state-specific programs for these, but federal options do exist. Income-driven repayment plans can lower your monthly payments based on what you actually earn. Private student loans, those can sometimes be negotiated if you're in genuine financial hardship. It's not guaranteed, but it's worth trying. Small business debt. Your business failing doesn't mean that your life has to fail too. You can file Chapter 7 bankruptcy to liquidate and start fresh, or Chapter 11 to restructure and try to save the business. Or you could pursue debt settlement. There are always options. The bottom line, your debt situation is unique, and the solution should be too. Cookie cutter advice won't work. So comment below, what type of debt is crushing you right now? And here's the controversial question. Have you ever asked your hospital or creditor for help, or did you just assume that they would say no? Because most people never even try. Okay, now let's talk about that third option that I mentioned that's specific to California. There's a 4-year deadline in California that most people don't know exists. And if you understand how it works, it could be the difference between paying back $10,000 or paying $500. But if you make one wrong move, you erase all that protection instantly. Let's say you have a credit card that you stopped paying 5 years ago, and honestly, you've been living in fear ever since. Every time your phone rings from an unknown number, you panic. Every time you see mail from a collection agency, your heart races. You're convinced they're going to sue you, garnish your wages, and take everything. For years, you've lost sleep over this. But here's what you don't know. If it's been more than 4 years, they can't touch you. In every state, there's something called the statute of limitations. In California, for credit card debt, it's 4 years from your last payment. After 4 years pass, the debt becomes time barred. That means creditors can't sue you. They have zero legal power to take you to court and force you to pay. Now, it's important to understand that the debt doesn't just magically disappear. Technically, you still owe it, but creditors can no longer enforce it legally. So what happens then? Well, creditors panic because they know that their leverage is gone, and suddenly they're willing to settle for pennies on the dollar just to get something rather than nothing. But here's where people completely mess this up, and this is critical. If you make even one small payment on that old debt, even $10, you restart the 4-year clock. That's it. Game over. One payment and the door is wide open for them to sue you because you just gave them 4 more years of legal power over you. Even worse, sometimes just acknowledging the debt can restart the 4-year clock depending on what you say. So if you get a call about an old debt, don't confirm it's yours, don't agree to pay, and don't promise anything. Always be sure to get everything in writing and consider talking to a debt expert first. That 5-year-old debt of $10,000, you could settle it for $500 if you play things right, but it only works if you don't accidentally restart the clock. Now, real talk. Have creditors ever threatened to sue you for debt that was over 4 years old? Comment yes or no. I'm trying to see how common this illegal tactic actually is. Here's the thing that nobody mentions in those debt relief ads. There's a hidden cost that shows up months after you settle your debt, and you could be hit with a massive bill if you're not prepared. But there's a way out that 80% of people qualify for and never even use. Imagine that you finally settle that $20,000 credit card debt for $10,000. You're celebrating. The weight's off your shoulders. You can breathe again. You're finally debt-free for the first time in years. Then April comes, and you get a form in the mail, a 1099-C from the IRS. It says you earned $10,000 in income last year, but you didn't earn anything. That was forgiven debt. But the IRS doesn't care. They want taxes on it. And depending on your tax bracket, you could owe $2,000 to $3,000 in taxes on debt you already struggled to pay. Nobody warned you about this, and suddenly your fresh start feels like another trap. This is why consequences matter. Everybody talks about getting out of debt, but nobody talks about what happens after. And the aftermath can be just as brutal as the debt itself if you're not prepared. So here are the debt relief consequences you should be aware of. Credit impact. Your credit score will take a hit with debt settlement. That's because when you stop making payments to creditors, those missed payments will get reported and your score drops. But here's the key. Once you're debt free, you can start rebuilding. Plus, if you're already behind on payments or if your accounts are already in collections, your credit's already tanked. It's already bad. The real question isn't, will this hurt my credit? It's, would I rather have bad credit and $20,000 in debt or bad credit and zero debt with a chance to rebuild it? I think the choice is pretty clear. Another big consequence is legal. If you default and do nothing, just ignore it and hope it goes away, you'll likely get sued. Creditors can garnish your wages, seize your bank accounts, and in some cases put liens on your property. The last one is a big one, tax consequences. This is the one that catches people off guard the most. The rule is, if a creditor forgives $600 or more of your debt, the IRS considers that taxable income and you'll get a 1099-C in the mail. So if you settle a $20,000 debt for $10,000, that other $10,000 in forgiven debt might be taxable income. But like I mentioned before, there is a way out that most people qualify for but never use. It's called the insolvency exception. If you were insolvent at the time your debt was forgiven, meaning your total debts exceeded your total assets, you may not have to pay debt on the forgiven amount. You just have to prove it to the IRS by filling out Form 982. It's as easy as that. Bottom line, debt relief consequences are real and serious, but they're also manageable if you're prepared and you know the workarounds. Tell me in the comments, did you know that the IRS could tax forgiven debt? And here's the real question. Has a debt settlement company ever told you that before you enrolled? Look, you just got the unfiltered truth on California debt relief, the timelines, the hidden options that most people never find, and the consequences that everyone conveniently forgets to mention until it's too late. Keep this in mind. You're not stuck, you're not out of options, and you deserve to live your life without the crushing weight of debt on your shoulders. There is a path forward, whether it's debt settlement, consolidation, credit counseling, or bankruptcy, that's right for your specific situation. You just need to know what's real and what's not. Now, if this video helps you, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. I'm breaking down everything you need to know about debt so that you can take back control of your financial future. And if you want to go deeper into any of these topics, debt settlement, bankruptcy, credit counseling, budgeting, head over to freedomdebtrelief.com. There are tons of free resources, articles, and tools just waiting there for you. And remember, you've got this. Thanks for watching.